Hi, welcome back. Yesterday we were running into some troubles while reloading masks in the procedural placement tools, so today we'll have a quick look to see if we can solve it using our scripts. First off, we have a blank template project. We have a simple mask. You should be able to see over here, we have one rule to texture the mask, and we have one rule, a custom rule to clear everything. Maybe we'll start by looking at that rule. This is the normal clear all. We have a custom clear all because this is the first part. There is a built-in function to reset the texture within any given mask, but here we're using a mask. Normally in the other examples we used to pass a mask as an argument. For example, this way, no, it's a mask, then we can give it a name, for example, a clear all mask. When we do this and we save, go back to our rules. Now, when we select the script, we have to select the mask to pass in. But for a clear all, we know we want to remove the whole map, except for the block mask, of course, but that's always active. So for this script, we can say we want a constant mask. This will generate a blanket mask of the default map size with whatever value you pass in here. So if we would say 0, it will actually create a new block mask for us, or at least a mask that is completely black. But when we say 255, it's a blanket mask. The size of our terrain with complete white, so we use that one to retexture everything to grass. We also clear all foliage and all existing objects that might have been generated by the engine. So that's already a way to handle masks. Now let's look at our forest. Usually what we would have done before is create some border-like things this way. I'm just going to grab this from one of the previous scripts, and maybe we'll start a new experiment. Okay. Copy pasting did seem to work. So we want to actually pass in the argument because we want to work with the forest mask we created earlier. So then we have our forest mask. Over here, what we are doing will only take one of the examples. We're going to save a new mask. The mask is going to be at this location, which is our project directory. It's going to be called road border filled, and we're creating a new mask from our forest mask with this width. This is what we would have done earlier. I can add the rule, and so we can actually see it working. Already selected the right script. We can select our forest mask. We'll just disable this rule for now, so everything goes a bit faster. Okay, now that that's generated, we can go have a look at the masks. And we don't see any other files, so that's interesting. We'll check if this is correct. It should have generated a forest mask. But it didn't. Okay. Can we debug it? Or maybe we should store it in a variable. Something to debug. I think we need a file name, a mask. I don't think we want binary. Okay, let's see what happens when we press debug. Okay, we do actually get a mask. And is this the correct border mask? So then I'm curious, why are we not saving? Are we certain it's not saving? Yes, we are. Location looks about right, but this is wrong. Actually don't have a map folder. Okay. We can try again by rerunning our rules. Now when we go to masks, okay, perfect. We have our new road border. So the old way, we would have gone to masks, we can import the mask, we can apply it, it will take it in memory, but when we regenerate it, there are some problems that actually this list has to refresh to reload the new generated image, and it's causing some confusion. So I want to see if we can maybe do that another way, and I think I saw things like this: store mask in memory permanently, retrieve the mask in later rules like this, mask from store. So that's one thing I want to try. And so we'll also have store mask. Mask from store should be a thing. This one is like this. Yes, when we do a new thing, create mask from store. Mask have been stored before like this. So I think these two commands work together. So we're going to try. I'm not sure if this is going to be new. Yeah, probably it is. Okay, so let's try that. Instead of saving our mask, we can generate our mask. We can store it. Mask from store. We're loading it. We need to store it. We need to pass a name. This would be our forest borders. And we need to pass the mask. We'll choose our generated mask. And so I think this should store it in memory instead of in a file. And so later on, fill mask from memory. We can run another script. And over here we'll say, get me a mask from the store. It's probably called forest border. Then we have a mask and we probably want to do something with that. We'll look at what scattering mask is doing, because we're actually going to do the same thing. We're just going to fill it up. Okay. So for our scatter function, we have the pre-placed objects. This has something to do with the object reference where the actual textures live. We have to pass in that. We pass a recursive flag. This is a variable, but we're just going to inline it. This is a name that is default to find this node in the tree. We can also inline that, so we don't need these objects. We also don't need a debug for now. We might add it back later. And eventually we have to pass which mask we want to scatter our stuff in. So I think this should probably work. Now, before we remove these debugging statements, I think we might want to use this. As I see, it's possible to pass strings. Mask index mask. I'm looking for a good reference to work with our masks later on. But for now, we'll keep it with example string. We're not going to use it yet. But when we add a step, fill mask from memory. We can pass pass in a string, and later on in our script we're going to be able to do something with it. But for now, we're just going to save this. We're going to add an object. And instead of the mud, can we take something else? The concrete, asphalt. Apply. Okay. When I run this, I expect my forest to be filled with mud. Then we're going to do the create borders. We don't care about the create borders anymore. Or actually we do. Because that's the one who's going to save it in memory. Or at least this one, so it's the experiment demo we have to run. Okay, that's correct. And then the other one is going to read out the mask from memory and fill it with asphalt. Okay, let's see what happens. Over here we can see mask argument for procedural placement not defined in our fill mask from memory step. So then we know fill mask from memory. That apparently this one didn't work. I don't really know. We also have a save mask. I don't know, that's the one we used earlier, of course. Maybe let's check our naming. Over here we save it as forest borders, and over here we load it up back as forest borders. There was a difference. Yeah. We need to add the correct names, and when we rerun the rules, it did actually create a border. What's so special about this is that right now we're not using the file anymore. So I'm going to enable the clear all so we can see it regenerate everything. But now we're just using the mask, the border mask, in memory. We don't have to save it anywhere. And so there won't be issues that the editor has already loaded it, because it's going to load it or put it in memory at the time we're going to need it. Clear all takes a while. Okay, nothing changed, so that's perfect. Means our borders worked again. So let's have another look at that. We are storing a mask in memory with a certain name, and then we are retrieving it in another step. So now let's do something with the string I was passing here. We can say mask memory name. We can do it over here, and we'll save it, but we'll also do it in our second script. We don't need to save anymore. And instead of calling this forest borders, we can now call this mask memory name. And when we load it, we do exactly the same. We actually load our variable instead of a hard-coded value. When we go back to our rules, our create borders is store mask in memory. You have to store my PG forest mask as a border, because it's going to do a transformation. Just border generated. I can apply this. Now I can come back to my fill mask from memory step, and I can say pull this mask from memory and fill it with asphalt. When we run it, it should do exactly the same thing, only now we're retrieving and storing the mask with an argument we are passing from the roles we know. Cool. Okay, so we can store a mask in memory, we can retrieve it without having to do the expensive operations of writing it to disk. Maybe we'll see if there's something else we can do. We have a store mask. I actually think maybe the mask from store, I think there was a way to actually load these guys by name in the script itself. We have a constant map. We have a scale mask. In the example from Maps for FS yesterday, we actually used a scale mask somewhere. Don't know if it's still active, but for example, when you have a mask, do I have any examples? No. If your map size is 2000 pixels and you have a map that is only half the size, 1000 pixels, you can actually just rescale an existing mask. For example, here the border mask. The border mask should have been too small. We can just resize it to our actual map size, and the editor itself will rescale the mask for us. So that's also interesting. Anything else we can find? Clear foliage in mask, clear texture in mask, all cool things. Scatter object in mask, stuff we already used before. We have a debug mask. We can store our masks. Hide smooth terrain with provided mask. So, okay, let's just try it out. There was something else I noticed. We're going to try to use it. First off, we'll create a spline. Place it over here somewhere. We'll take one of the endpoints. And we'll just pretend like this is a nice dirt path through our forest. Okay. Now we actually want to generate a road along this spline. So what I noticed in the placement tools, generate mask from spline maybe. Okay, there is something called Spline mask. Create a mask from splines. We need to pass a list. I'm a little bit confused about the lists. No width. But maybe I think we can work with the nodes. That's what I've seen them do before. Then we can include some nodes. Maybe we should loop over the nodes and do it for every spline. Do we have any other examples? Paint mask by spline group. Spline group, they have a mask, they have a radius. It's doing exactly that. This might actually be what I'm trying to do. Node containing all splines to be used for painting. Maybe we should just try out this one, paint mask by spline group. this one. And it expects a spline group, so let's first create a group. Dirt paths. Take the spline and put it in our dirt paths. Okay. Select our group. We added a selected. The mask we're going to paint, so we don't have a mask yet. No, because you can't anyway. So maybe we say roads. We'll just create a dummy file. I'm not sure why we need the mask yet. Am I looking at the correct thing? No. Paint mask by spline group, so we add our spline group, we select our mask, we select the correct mask, and a radius. I'm not sure about this yet. We'll set it to 2. Disable all rules. No, not that one. This is the one I need. Let's have a look what it's going to do. It's going to take our spline group, it's going to take our mask. Nothing is happening with our mask. We're not passing our mask to our function, we're not using it down here, and we have a random to do, copy layer ID to mask. So, set terrain layer at world position. This is interesting because this is not a mask. We're just texturing terrain. So I think the whole idea here is they paint the terrain maybe on a new layer, and afterwards they would copy the same base image they generated via mask. Okay. That's still different than this one. Let's try out something. What if we do this? We need to pass some things. We're going to pass our node and we say for. We don't need all the other stuff. But we do need example nodes, and that's what we're going to loop over. We don't need a layer ID. Okay. Mask from Spline. So add this group. And hopefully the editor won't crash once we run this. Okay. It's expecting the int array. I'm confused about what the int array is. Or maybe a spline in the backend is an int array. Can we find any more examples? We have the paint terrain by splines. Used that one before, but yet again we're just texturing terrain instead of the mask. It's basically the same as the other script. But it's looping over a couple of different roads. So I kinda think it looks like they want to have a paint mask by spline, but maybe they're not there yet. And they're still using the workaround by using terrain. It's just painting terrain. No raycasting. Creating a road mask. Using the normal raycasting for objects. Same over here. Those distances. So, no luck with this one yet. Maybe if you have other arguments, it doesn't look like we can add lists of stuff, but we do for the nodes, for example. So how will we ever get a list of ints from Spline in here? We'll have a look at the editor utils. Just open up an editor for 1 second. Is it doing anything with splines? It is. Set terrain height, also interesting. Get terrain, set terrain height. Not really what we're looking for. Terrain by spline. And yet again, we're just texturing. We're not creating the masks. I think it would be interesting to see how this one is implemented, the normal raycasting one. If you should find any source code of this one. But I don't know where it's at. So, I guess for now, not much luck with the splines yet. At least we can use masks in memory. That's already something. So there's one last thing I wanted to try. Instead of the masks, we'll remove this for now. In the fill mask from memory, I wanted to try something different. Fill mask from memory, and actually see mask from store. So maybe this one. I want to see if I can load the original forest mask again. Actually, I mean this one. Without passing it in as a mask argument, to see if we can load it from store. So we know we're looking for PG forest. No, we'll just add a completely new one. Add mask PG random to make sure it works. We'll call it something. We'll paint something once it's loaded to masks. Okay, now we have an existing mask. Save our map, so it's persisted. And so now I think fill mask from memory over here. We can say pg random And we want to fill that with asphalt. Let's try that out. See if it makes any difference. Nope, doesn't seem to work. Does look like I did it correctly. I don't think you can load these masks. Create mask. Create a mask from 2 source masks. We already did that a couple of times. Mask from a store, that's the one we were using earlier. We actually have different noise masks. I didn't use the other ones except for Berlin yet. Raycast physics mask might be interesting. Okay, but I guess for now it's not working out. We'll see if we can figure it out another time. So that's it for today. Have a nice day. See you next time.